Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the 4 Pillars of Health with Kevin Davis at Kevin Davis Health. We are so happy to have you here. If you like what you're going to hear and you think it's valuable, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then also share with other folks that may want to enjoy this type of conversation that we're going to have today. You know, Kevin Davis Health is all about trying to reach your goals as far as like weight loss and increased energy, sleeping better. But also, we want to look at the long-term picture as well. We want to be able to look at, what can you do now that you can benefit from later. So the things that we talk about here, meeting the needs and the wants now, but we also want to be able to look long-term, avoid some drivers of chronic disease. So today, we're going to tackle the question of resistance training versus cardio. Which is the best for weight loss? A lot of people, when they think of exercise, they want to get on a treadmill. They want to get on an exercise bike. They want to go for a long walk. And there's nothing wrong with those things. I think it's important that we incorporate some of that into our lifestyle. But is it the best thing for us? Is it going to give us more bang for our buck? Or is resistance training going to be better? So as we talk today, I'm going to try to convince you of what I think. I'm going to tell you up front, what I think is resistance training far outweighs the long-term benefits of cardio. Now, first of all, everybody is at different stages. Not everybody is exercising 3, 4, 5 times a week for an hour long. Some of us are not exercising at all. So we're going to kind of tackle this from the beginning stages. If you're somebody who is exercising on a regular basis, hopefully you'll get some pointers out of this as far as maybe doing different types of exercises. But if you're not doing anything, what we want you to do is just be consistent and start moving. Consistency is the key to the game. If you start around New Year's when we're recording this, so if it's something that you're just going to do for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you're not going to get the long-term benefits from it. What we want to do is we want to be consistent. And when you're being consistent, you're going to get results. And so often when we have our New Year's resolutions, we want to do everything at one time. And sometimes that's really difficult to do. What I try to get people to do is what is your baseline? What is the minimum you can do? I'm not going to ask you to start off by working out for an hour, hard. What I may ask you to do is just start doing push-ups every morning. It may be just one push-up. It may be going on a walk. It may be doing some body weight squats. And you can do those in the comfort of your own home. But what we're going to do is ask you to do the minimum. So on those days when it's busy, you got kids, you got work, you got meetings, you got activities to do. You just don't have a whole lot of time maybe to get to the gym. What is the minimum thing you can do? And, some of the things that are the minimum are doing a push-up a day. Just one, not 100, just one. Doing a body weight squat, taking the stairs. It could be something as easy as that just to get started and being consistent. All exercises are okay. And I'm going to tell you what my routine is at the end of this episode. But what I want you to understand is incorporating different types of exercise is the best, but if we're going to just choose one or two, we're going to go over what I think is the best way to get started. This is a lot about weight loss, but exercise helps so much more. And we can go in different topics as far as that is concerned. But the truth is, when you want to lose weight, you kind of have to be in a calorie deficit. And when I say that, so many people want to say, I just want to eat less and move more. And, that works for a while. But, if you exercise for 500 calories a day and you do that consistently, if that rung true over a period of time, you would get to the point where you would be wasting away to nothing because you would keep losing weight. Your body adapts to your exercise. And that's one of the reasons I think strength training is much better is when your body is wanting to build muscle, it's going to burn more calories. So it puts you more in a calorie deficit. Whereas in running, your body is going to lose muscle if you're not strength training because what's going to happen is your body wants to run more. The muscle is taking more energy. It's going to get rid of that. And you're going to get to the point where you're going to plateau. And I think that's where a lot of people get frustrated is they start cutting their calories, they're walking, and when I say by walking, it's leisurely, it's not sprinting or anything like that, and they lose some weight, but then it stalls. So if you're one of those, listen on, you're going to get some ideas as far as the best way to lose weight and maintain weight loss. Speaking of running and sprinting, if you think about it, look at the difference between a marathon runner and a sprinter. Think of the Olympics. If you look at a marathon runner, they don't have a lot of muscle muscle definition, they usually have a little pooch in their stomach. It's because their body is adjusting to the long distance running and their kind of wear and tear. If you look at a sprinter, they're more cut, they're more muscular. And if you ask me what kind of body I would rather have, I'd rather much have a sprinter's body than a marathon. And there's some long-term consequences to that as well too. And we'll talk about that in a little while. And when people lose weight, so often people come to me to lose weight and they lose weight, but they don't do the other things I ask them to do as far as getting their body to maintain that weight loss. If you are going to lose weight, and let's just say you lose 100 pounds, and that's not 100 pounds of fat, you're going to lose some muscle out of that. So let's say you lose 20 pounds of muscle and 80 pounds of fat, and you do the things you're supposed to do, but you kind of creep back and you start doing things you shouldn't do, and you gain that weight back. So you gain 100 pounds back. Well, what's going to happen is you're not going to gain 80 pounds of muscle or 80 pounds of fat and 20 pounds of muscle. You're probably going to gain mostly just all fat, and you're kind of worse to begin with. So what we want to do is we really want to concentrate on our diet to lose weight. Exercise can help, but really where exercise comes into play is weight loss maintenance. It's easier to keep that weight loss off, and we're going to talk about that why in just a little bit. So if you think about what do you need to do, you need to have some goals. And if you have goals, then you're going to be able to adapt a lifestyle to get there. So like for me, I want to lift more weight. Maybe for you, you want to go hunting, going to Disney World with grandkids. It could be able to go for a bike ride when you go to the beach this summer. So there's all kinds of goals that you can have. And if you incorporate your resistance training and your diet along with that, then you're going to be able to maintain that. So the goals that we want to have as far as resistance training is the first thing we want to do is lift heavy. Now that's relative for everybody. Your heavy, my heavy, and somebody else's heavy is all different. You go in the weight room, you can see a lot of people lifting a lot of weight. You can see a lot of people lifting what you would consider maybe a little bit of weight, but it may be heavy to them. So when you go to the gym, don't worry about what other people are doing. Just do what you can do. Do the things you're supposed to do. If you're at home, keep track of what you're doing. And when we talk about lifting heavy, it's not like the isolated exercises like for your biceps or your triceps and things like that. What we're talking about is major muscles. We're talking about squats. We're talking about deadlifts, bench presses, shoulder presses, rows for your back. If you don't know what those are, that's fine. We can help you out there if you ever want to sign up for our coaching, or if you go to a gym, I'm sure there's people there that would love to help you. But those are the type of exercises we want to incorporate. If you're going to do anything, if you're going to get more bang for your buck, you're going to include those type of exercises. The other thing that resistance training will help is hormones. For instance, I know for me personally, after changing my diet and starting to lift more heavy weights, my testosterone increased. It was in the low normal, now it's in the high normal, and without any kind of supplements or injections or hormone replacement. I know from personal experience that you can increase your hormones. Now, it's not guaranteed, but it can help. The other thing that weightlifting can do is, for especially long term, is increase your insulin sensitivity. If you've listened to me before in any of my social outlets, you know that I talk a lot about insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a driver of chronic disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes, those type of things. So when I talk about insulin sensitivity, it's the opposite of that. You're having more muscle and your body becomes more sensitive to insulin and you produce less insulin. And that's one reason why a lot of people who have a lot of muscle can eat more and doesn't seem to gain any weight, because they're incorporating all the glucose in their body, and by your insulin help putting it into muscle cells instead of fat cells or to your liver, and they can kind of splurge every now and then a lot more than someone who's not lifting weights. So if you're somebody who's just been through the holidays and you gain some weight, if you have more muscle weight, more muscle mass, more than likely that is not going to be as significant as if you have less muscle mass. So if you're planning, one of the things that we talked about, like I talked about before, was your goals. If you want to be able to enjoy the holidays and not gain weight, increase your muscle mass between now and then. That could be a goal that you could get to. For me personally, as far as the things that I do, these are the type of exercises that I want to incorporate on a weekly basis. Now, when I talk about exercising and I talk about diet or sleep, or no matter what it is, I think about longevity in mind. And if you have more muscle mass, if you have a greater grip strength, you're more than likely going to live a longer, healthier life, because that's some indicators of some strength deficit or increasing strength. So when I have a plan for my exercising, I'm not just going to my gym just to lift weights. I have a purpose. Right now, I want to increase weight on my squats, my deadlifts, and my bench. So what does that mean? That means I have to have a workout plan to get me there. I'm having to use these compound major muscles exercises that we just talked about. It also means that with my diet, with my sleep, with my prayer, I'm going to have to do those things to get my body prepared for increased muscle mass optimization. If I'm not eating correctly, if I'm eating pizza and ice cream and cookies all the time and not getting my protein in and my amino acids, which are the building blocks, I'm not going to reach my goal. No matter how hard I'm going to work at the gym, I'm not going to reach my goal. So, having a plan helps incorporate a lifestyle to get to that goal that you want to have. So it's important that you take a look at what are your goals. If you want to, say you want to walk around Disney World with your kids or grandkids and you don't want to feel tired. Well, if you're eating junk, if you're eating processed foods, if you're eating sugar, well, you're going to gain some weight. You're going to keep your weight. And when you get out there and you try to start walking, what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to feel as good as you can. So, if you have that goal of wanting to walk around Disney World, if you do some strength training, do some resistance training, then you're going to be able to achieve those goals. So what we want to do is be functional. We want to have a functional life. And that kind of leads me in to the 4 things that I want to do on a weekly basis that helps my health. The first thing I want to do is stability work. And stability work is going to prevent falls. It's going to make me use muscles that I normally wouldn't use, usually the small intrinsic type muscles. And when you're increasing those, then it's going to be able to help me lift more because I can incorporate those into my lift because I'm firing on them. Now, some of the things that I try to do on a weekly basis is I use a balance board. I use a 1 foot and a 2 foot balance board. And I try to do anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds on the balance board. And it's really hard to do when you first get started. It looks easy, but it's not. The other thing I try to do is the deadlifts. I think deadlifts help a lot with stability as well too. And then finally, I do single leg Romanian deadlifts. Now, if you don't know what these are, that's fine. You can look up on the internet. If you ever become a client of ours, we can show you. We got some videos of different things that you can do. But doing a Romanian deadlift looks easy. It looks like it's very easy. All you do is tilt over and almost like you're touching your toes standing on 1 foot. But really, it's very difficult to do, especially after you do your workout. You'll start seeing that you don't have the balance that you think you do. Number 2 thing that I do every week is strength training. Now, the strength training is incorporating usually one of these every day. And it's usually like a bench press, deadlift, a squat, overhead barbell press for your shoulders, or some kind of like barbell row for my back, and trying to use as heavy as weight as I can. I use some other exercises during the time as well. I hit my biceps and triceps and different things like that as well. But I try to incorporate at least a compound major muscle movement on at least 4 times a week basis. I also incorporate zone 2. Now, zone 2 is an exercise where you're doing an exercise, and if you're having a normal conversation, you're probably not going hard enough. If you can't have a conversation and be just slightly out of breath, you're probably going too hard. It's that middle ground to where if you're doing an exercise, you can hold a conversation, but not a regular one. You may be a little bit out of breath by doing that. So that's the best way. You can do 70% of your maximal heart rate. There's different ways you can do that, but you have to wear some kind of device that checks your heart rate. And I just think it gets too difficult sometimes. So the 4th type of exercise is a zone 5. Now, zone 5 is really all out. Zone 1 is the easiest. Zone 5 is the hardest. That's when I do this probably 2 times a week, and it incorporates some kind of Tabata or high intensity interval training. And, it usually lasts just 2 to 4 minutes or something along those lines. And I usually do that a couple of times during that day and try to repeat that one other day during the week. It really taxes you. It gets your heart rate going. You're going as hard as you can for, 2 to 4 minutes. And if you try to do anything hard for 2 to 4 minutes, you can see how difficult it is. So those 4 things, the stability, strength, zone 2, zone 5, I try to do those every week and do them different frequency. I do some walking or some long, like on treadmill walking or a nice easy pace. I try to do that maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks, but I think trying to get more bang out of my butt because I'm busy as you are, and try to do as best as I can to reach those goals. Now, you may be thinking, oh my goodness, there's so much to do. Don't get overwhelmed. I think when we're starting out, we're going to go over 5 different things starting out. And I think if you just go in order of these, I think you're going to get better results. The first thing is you want to do compound movements. You want to do a bench press, a squat, a deadlift, a shoulder press, a row row, those type of things for those major muscles. If you're not familiar with those, you can get on Google and find all kinds of different examples. If you need more one-on-one, that's where we're here to help you and kind of guide you. Now, the second thing I think you want to do is do exercising at least 2 days a week. I do 6 days a week, and I've worked myself up to where I still see progress, I still see results. If you're just starting off doing 2 days a week, again, what's the minimum you can do 2 days a week? I think you can do something, even if it's just push-ups and body weight squats in your room before you leave the house in the morning. The third thing you want to do is make sure you get an adequate protein. I try to get about 0.8 grams protein per desired body weight. So if you're 100 pounds, you want to weigh 100 pounds, that's 80 grams. If it's 200 pounds, it's 160 grams. So you want to try to hit that mark. So it's really hard to do sometimes because that's making sure that you're getting enough quality protein. But if you don't do this, you're going to have a hard time building that muscle that you want to have. The fourth thing I want you to think about is changing up your routine. What I mean changing up your routine is doing exercises on different days, doing different rep ranges. Some weeks do 5, some weeks do 10, some weeks do 20. Changing your rest times. It's important. It depends on what exercise you're doing. If you're doing really heavy compound movements, you want to have a longer rest rate. And even when you're doing biceps and triceps, you can have a 2-minute rest rate. But sometimes you want to switch that up to where you do a superset. You do 2 exercises back to back without resting. And it just changes up things. It changes up your muscle. It kind of confuses them a little bit. And I think you see better results with that. And then finally, adding days. I think that's something else that you could do. And finally, the fifth thing, I think incorporating the zone 2, zone 5, and the stability workouts. I think it's so important that you do that. I think that if you just do the heavy lifting, I think you'll see results. But if you want to get optimized after you get used to exercising on a weekly basis, you can start adding different things to it. And what I found is over time is I keep adding different routines, different types of exercises, and change it up every few weeks, every few months, depending on what I'm doing, and incorporating these different exercises. So I think it's important that you take the approach of, with exercising, if we're thinking about weight loss, I think you're going to see weight loss with cardio initially, but I think you're going to stall. Most people do. But if you're going to incorporate weight training, if resistance training, now you can do the weight training with bands. I forgot to mention that. You don't have to use dumbbells. You don't have to use barbells. You can use bands. I actually use bands. I got to have videos for my clients. I send to them if they want to use bands. It's a killer workout. It's really, really hard. And I think you can get a lot of results from that because it's resistance training. So hopefully this has helped you guys. Hopefully that this information is going to be helpful as far as getting you to the results that you want to get. Now, we always want to finish our episodes with catechisms. And today's catechism is, who is your neighbor? And it says, all my fellow men are my neighbors. It's not just the people next to you. It's the people that's around you. And, what we want to do is we want to take Jesus's example and we want to follow in his footsteps. And he was looking out for his fellow neighbors, his fellow men and women, and how he could help them. He was a servant, and we need to be a servant. We need to be a servant to our neighbors. So I encourage you, if you don't know Jesus Christ, we are here to help you and talk to you, and we would love to have that conversation with you. Again, if you like our stuff, please subscribe. We would be grateful for that. We'd like for you to share it, because that means that whoever you're sharing with, that they need some results as well too. But anyway, we will talk to you guys next week, and look forward to having our next episode.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. No patient-provider relationship is implied or established. This podcast in no way represents the practice of medicine. The information given is to be used at the listener's own risk. Please consult your provider before making any changes, as the contents of this podcast is no substitution for your provider's instruction.